y'all, welcome to Meiji and Poppy's house where we're learning all kinds of new things together. So today it's going to be a new recipe that I found that looks so good. It is called chicken ramen with a creamy garlic sauce, and then we're going to do some roasted veggies. And stay tuned for the homemade healthy Butterfingers. I did say Butterfingers. So stay till the end and we'll learn this together. Okay, so I love to go through Pinterest and look for great recipes, and sometimes there's pictures that just stop you in your tracks. That's what this one was. So it's called Fiery Chicken Ramen with creamy garlic sauce, and it looks like it's going to be delicious. So what we start with is, it says 2 boneless chicken thighs or breasts. So I have 3 because they're small, but 2 regular size ones would be what I normally would use. And what we're going to do first is you combine a teaspoon of chili powder, a teaspoon of paprika, half a teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of black pepper, and then we're going to coat the chicken in that and let it sit for 15 minutes. I'll put the recipe below so you'll know exactly how much of each to use, because I know that's quick. So I'm just going to sprinkle some over the top, and then we'll turn them over and do the bottom, and then we let it sit for 15 minutes, and then we're going to cook the chicken. We are going to boil the ramen noodles, and thank heavens there are some gluten-free ramen noodles that taste just like the regular thing. So we're going to make this a gluten-free meal, and it's not designated a gluten-free meal, but all we have to do is swap a few things out, and it's going to be delicious. I believe it looks like it's going to be good. All right, so we've got these covered, and we're going to wait 15 minutes. Okay, for this recipe we're going to do 2 different kinds of sauces. One is a creamy garlic sauce. So what we're going to do is we start off with a tablespoon of butter. So we're going to let that butter melt, and then it says to add 2 garlic cloves. So Meiji likes to use these instead of having to peel garlic and dice it up and all that stuff. I go the lazy route. And so for each teaspoon of this equals 1 clove. So we'll do 2 teaspoons of this in with our butter. And when you do garlic, you don't want to let it cook too long, because it burns easily. So when the butter melts and the garlic gets going good, we're going to do it for about 30 seconds or until it gets fragrant. I mean, you really can't. It smells so good. So we'll let that melt, and once it does, then we're going to add in 1/4 cup. It says heavy cream. I didn't have heavy cream. I had half and half, so I'm doing half and half instead. It might not be as thick and creamy, but we'll save a calorie or 2 by doing half and half and using what I've got in my refrigerator. Okay, so we're letting this melt. Getting it good. Oh, you should smell it. Garlic smells so good. Okay, getting that all good and garlicky and fragrant. This is going to be good. Alright, so then we're going to add our 1/4 cup of heavy cream, or half and half. And it says to just stir it. Again, this is the first time I've ever made this. So it says to stir it until it gets hot and it thickens up a bit. So that's what I'll do. I will stand here and stir it for a few minutes. Okay, so I'm seeing this recipe is a bowl. So we're actually going to do like the ramen noodles at the bottom. Then you pour the broth sauce on top of that. Then you're going to add the chicken, and then you pour the creamy sauce on top of that. So this is the broth sauce. So you're going to start with a teaspoon of sesame oil, and I've got it on about medium heat. And then we're going to add the 2 cloves of garlic, which my 2 teaspoons of the lazy style garlic. And like I said, it says to heat it until it's aromatic, which only takes about 30 seconds. Don't let it burn. And then we're going to add, and I mean already it smells so strong, so I'm going to go ahead and add my 3 cups of chicken broth. And this, I found gluten-free chicken broth, which, again, this recipe is not necessarily gluten-free, but you can substitute gluten-free ingredients to make it gluten-free. So that's exciting to know because this is new to us, and so we're learning as we go. All right, 1/4 of a cup of heavy cream, half and half for Miji. And then, what else does it say? A tablespoon of soy sauce. And since, did you know soy sauce has gluten in it? I didn't until we came upon this gluten-free diet. So I have got what's called tamari sauce, T-A-M-A-R-I. You can also get coconut aminos. Both of those are substitutes for soy sauce, and they are gluten-free. So a tablespoon of this. And what else? Let me get my Pinterest recipe over here. Okay, and then we're going to cook this. It says for 5 to 7 minutes. What's it say about that? Let me look. Okay, it says to simmer for 5 to 7 minutes. Okay, so I'll turn this up a little bit till it, not boiling, but just barely kind of making a little waves in there, and that's simmering. So we'll do this 5 to 7 minutes, and we'll be back. Okay, so I've got the broth sauce simmering, and the chicken has been sitting for 15 minutes with the marinade or the spices on it. And now it says to heat a tablespoon of vegetable oil. I have avocado oil in here, and it says medium-high heat, so I've got it on about 7 or 8. And then you're going to put the chicken in, and it says to let, that might sound good, to let it cook 5 to 7 minutes on each side until it's cooked all the way through. So we'll do that, and then we've got to boil the ramen noodles, and then we'll put it all together, and we'll be done. Okay, so the chicken's cooking, the sauce is simmering, and the water is boiling, so it's time for the ramen noodles. You can use regular ramen noodles if you don't need to be gluten-free, but we found these at Costco, and they are so good. I've tried them already, and I mean, it tastes exactly the same as the regular ones, so this is like a win for the gluten-free world. All right, so we're going to boil these. You do it according to your package directions. Ours, it takes about 8 minutes. And so we'll do that, and then we'll come back together and assemble the bowls. Okay, the next part of the meal is the roasted broccoli. You can do this with Brussels sprouts or broccoli are my 2 favorite things. My daughter loves to do carrots, but today we're going to focus on broccoli. I didn't even know how much, because I usually do this without measuring, so I had to look it up. It says 14 ounces of broccoli. You need a tablespoon of olive oil. I just put my broccoli on there. I fill up the sheet pan, and then I just kind of make sure all of them get a little love, and then mix it up. And really, like, you do want to make sure that they're all covered a little bit with the olive oil. And then you're going to put a little salt and a little pepper. If you want to get fancy, you can put some garlic on here. You can put any seasonings you really want. This is just a simple recipe. Phil, Poppy, does not really love vegetables, but he'll eat these okay, because they are really good. So salt and pepper them, olive oil, that's all you need, and then it's going to go in the oven 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. But what's going to happen is the ones around the edges get really blackened and crunchy, is the way that I love it. So about halfway through, I stir it all up because I want them all to be able to get on the edge and get a chance at getting black and crunchy, because those are my favorite ones. So that's the second part of our recipe, and we'll take that out in a minute and show you how it turns out. All right, we've got Poppy, the master taste tester, with us. Hold on, Poppy. First, so I've got the ramen noodles and the chicken in here. So then you're going to put the broth sauce over this. I don't know how much. we made a lot, so I guess here I'm just gonna pour it.
That's good.
No.
Easy.
All right. And then the creamy garlic sauce on top of that. Okay. Give it a try. I'm anxious to see if it's as good as it looks. Be fixing my bowl over here. Is it good?
That's good. The noodles actually taste like noodles.
Yeah, those noodles.
They're not cardboard or whatever.
No. Yeah, we have found some of the gluten-free noodles are not fantastic.
These are good though.
Okay, and then try your broccoli. Phil.
Delicious broccoli.
It really is. It's the best broccoli. Truly, like it's a lot better than the boiled stuff with cheese on it that we had growing up. Okay.
Good.
Okay, now for the part that we have been waiting for, let me see what this is called exactly. Healthy, homemade, no-bake Butterfingers. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, and if you're wondering what I'm looking at, I just pull all of this up on Pinterest. I look through Pinterest at night instead of watching TV. I'm just going through Pinterest and finding great recipes. So this calls for a cup of peanut butter, and you're going to put all of this in a saucepan because we're about to heat it all up together. So a cup of peanut butter, and then 1/3 of a cup of honey. Two of my favorite things, peanut butter and honey. This cannot go wrong. And then 1/2 of a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and I've already said I'm going to make a video on how to make this. This is my homemade vanilla. What is it? Is it vodka you mix with vanilla beans? I can't remember right now. It's been, I made this about a year and a half ago, maybe even longer than that, and it has lasted this long because I made so much, and it is so good. So 1/2 teaspoon of this vanilla, and of course you can use whatever vanilla you have, but I'll teach you how to make some of this soon. And then 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, is that all that we? Yes. Okay, so you're going to warm this up for 2 to 4 minutes on low heat, I think, medium-low heat. So I've got it on about 4. Okay, so you're going to add this mixture after it heats up for a few minutes to 1 3/4 cup of cornflake cereal. But as if you've seen us before, you know that Phil just got diagnosed with celiac disease, and so we're trying to find gluten-free alternatives to recipes, or just following gluten-free recipes. But this one was not gluten-free, but the only thing I had to change was the cereal. So I'm using the Catalina Crunch Cinnamon Toast cereal, gluten-free, and what I did, it's like really crunchy, and so I put it in a bag, and I got my little meat mallet, and I crunched it up a little bit, made it a little smaller. So we're going to add the peanut butter mixture to the cereal mixture, and then we'll do some more magic with it. Okay, so the recipe says just stir this for 2 to 4 minutes and let it get heated through. So it looks like it's heated through. So we're going to add that to the crushed up cereal and stir it all together. And then it says you're going to form it into logs and put it on either parchment paper or wax paper on a baking sheet, and then you freeze it for an hour, and then we're going to melt some chocolate and coat it in the chocolate, in the melted chocolate, and then you have to freeze it again for 10 minutes, and then we'll be able to come back and try it. Sounds to me like this is going to be so good. Can't wait. Okay, so we've mixed the peanut butter mixture and the cereal together. This is what mine looks like. Yours might look a little different with the cornflakes, but this is if you use the Catalina Crunch. And it says to shape it into logs, and it's got a little picture for me, so I'm going to try to do this the best that I can. So it looked about like this, about this big, like that. So I'm going to do those. It says it makes 12 to 14. I'm praying more on the 14 side of things because I'm looking forward to these. All right, I'm going to finish these and then we'll be back to do the chocolate. Okay, not going to say I didn't get a little messy doing that, but I did get 14. Who wants 12 Butterfingers when you can have 14? Okay, so now for the fun part. These have been in the freezer for over an hour for us. So you're going to take them, you're going to dip it in the melted chocolate. By the way, that's a cup of chocolate chips with a teaspoon of coconut oil. And it says you can do it on the stovetop or the microwave. I always put it in the microwave, do it for a minute, stir, then in 30-second intervals, and I stir in between each. Usually takes about 2.5 minutes to get that good and melted. Okay, and I have this right here so that the chocolate can kind of drip off of it, but you don't have to have this. You can just do wax paper or parchment paper, and you're gonna do all of these the same way. Get them good and coated just like a Butterfinger would be, and then put it on your paper or your whatever you've got. And then what we're going to do is put them in the refrigerator for about 10 or 15 minutes and let the chocolate harden up, and then we'll do a taste test. Okay, as you can tell, we have changed because we just worked out, and now we're about to have a Butterfinger. But it's a healthy Butterfinger.
Yeah.
So this is called Getting Healthy, Meiji and Poppy style. But my motto is that all grandmothers and granddads need a little squishy lap for them to be comfortable in, right?
Yeah, but you don't want it too squishy. We can't bend over to pick them up.
Yeah, that is true. All right, so let's taste our healthy homemade Butterfinger. This really is our first try at this. That's really good. I like that.
Oh yeah. Because that workout, I'll probably have about 3 of these.
He's made us a good old pot of decaf coffee and about to sit down with our Butterfinger. Hope you enjoyed this. Always looking for good recipes to try out on Poppy.
Yep. See you later.